8 feet wide. It contains my workshop at this end, and a little bit later we'll walk down to my gallery at the other end, where I've been on the Lewes studio artist for the last 3 years. First is haul out a couple of pieces that I'm working on and talk to you a little bit about where I am on the project. Louder?
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Okay, maybe I'll get hoarse quickly. So I'm going to bring out some pieces now. It won't take very long, but these are pieces that are I hope eventually to show at the RAL as an assemblage. Heavy, so I have to have it in 2 pieces so I can take it apart and move it around. This is one of 3 pieces that I carved out of a 6-foot-high maple log given to me by Ken and Judy Catterton in Rehoboth. They're both artists that I believe have exhibited at the RAL also. They're painters. All the wood that I've carved has been gifted to me by one person or another, including my good friend, I hope I can call you that, Nick Serator, who gave me a cherry burl that I worked on and other pieces. There's 2 more pieces. I'm going to bring them out. As you can see, these pieces are of approximately the same shape because they were carved out of one round log about this big around, and they were unnested, so to speak, to make these pieces. There's one more. Fitz, what's the black? Now let me tell you what happened. The first first I carved these pieces out of wood unfinished with a chainsaw. Coming to the blackboard. With a chainsaw.
Baby says, does he know we can't hear us?
Difficult to hear him. Sounds like it's very windy.
This is my small carving chainsaw. I also have a saw about 3 times this size that I started with, and this is my finishing saw. It's a wonderful piece of equipment made by steel. So I carved the pieces. I used an angle grinder to shape them, and then I sanded them with power sanders, a belt sander like this. This is a belt sander and a circular. It turns out that as part of woodcarving, you sometimes make a mistake. Well, I made several, and in carving through the log to make the shapes that I have envisioned, I made some slips, and the saw went off in different directions, and every one of these black places is where there was a saw cut that was not supposed to be there. So what I found out aesthetically, what looks best is if I fill the space with an epoxy resin that I color black with black powder paint. I can fill them in, and then what I do after I fill it in, and there's a lot of extra black, I sand it off. Down here, there were a lot of cracks, which I have filled, and then I've sanded off the excess filler, and I will refinish this so that the black is shiny, and all this wood will be the same as what I've done here with the tung oil varnish. So these are all in process. It takes a number of refillings with the epoxy material that I mix up, and the white tape is boating tape. It's shrink wrap tape, and so I put it on one side and fill from the other side, and then do the reverse. And when I put this is kind of like a dam to hold the epoxy from running all over the place. So I have a heat gun that I heat the tape, and it shrinks it into the wood to provide a good seal. And I've done that to several more places where I'm going to be doing more epoxy work, like here and down there, and probably here as well. You have to cover the other side so it doesn't leak through. So that's pretty much what these are. I've been working on this log for, golly, I got the log last summer, and when the Cattertons cut their tree down in Rehoboth, their logging crew put the log in the back of my truck over there. That gray pickup truck holds a heavy load, and so then when I came back from vacation, there was the truck and the log in their yard, and I drove it over here, and my landlord Stormy helped me unload it, and it sat out here for a number of months to cure a bit, and then I stripped the bark off the log with a hand chisels, and then started carving. So I've been at this now for at least 9 months.
Again, what is it?
What?
What wood is it?
This is maple. It's a silver maple log that the Cattertons cut down because it was shading their lawn too much. Once they cut it down and I got the log and cut it open, I found that it was a good thing that they had it cut down, because from some of these areas the wood has started to rot from the inside, and the tree would have eventually fallen. And a sign of that is all these black marks here are called spaltings, S-P-A-L-T, spaltings, and they're caused by a fungus that gets into the wood after the wood has died and is starting to go rotten, but before the wood softens. And so it's a real lucky piece to have wood with spaltings in it, because it's very interesting, so interesting that I wouldn't want to paint it over. And many of my pieces have spaltings in them. And let's see, there's also, no, I don't have it here. Was given a couple of logs by the Rehoboth Art League some years ago that I have carved and made a bench for the RAL as a gift, as a thank you, which is what I try to do. When people call up and say, do you want some wood, Fitz? I say, I'll have a look at it, and if it would work with my carving, I find a way to haul it over here, and I always make something as a gift to somebody who's made me a gift of their wood. And I think probably I owe you something, Nick.
Oh, that's right.
And I'll show you when we go to the gallery what I'm going to give to the Cattertons as a thank you from this wood. From the pieces I carve out, there's wood, lots of wood left over. There's obviously plenty of firewood for our fire pit in the garden, but there's also wood for making smaller objects. So that's the current project. My work table over here is very handy. I lift these up on the work table, lean them over, and I can work on them with my power tools. Let's see, what else do I want to do? Probably, if you're up to it, I'll take you into my workshop and we'll talk about what's there. Careful, don't touch these, they could fall over. Careful. And your don't trip over everything. I'll stand in the back, you can come in. All right, this is my workshop, which I'm very happy to have, I must say. There's plenty of room on these benches that I have constructed from wood skids and milk crates. I don't show the brand of the milk, they don't like me to have them. At this end are my work tools, primarily hand tools, screwdrivers and so on, gas can and oil for the chainsaws, hatchets and hammers here, my hard hat for when I'm working and protecting my ears.
Bring upward.
Thank you. Okay, I screw that back on. I always wear work gloves of one sort or another. These work gloves have a Velcro tightening around the wrist to prevent any kind of contractures or damage to the nerves in my hands. Carpal tunnel syndrome, that's it. As a physician, I should know these things right like that. I carry here, we'll move down a little bit. I'll show you some of my other power tools.
Just repeating this.
This is a grinder. Goes round and round. You can put all kinds of small tools with sandpaper or metal bits in it.
I can't get anything right anymore.
This is a small grinder that goes around like that. And this is my workhorse. This is what's called an angle grinder. The angle grinder goes around very, very fast. It's a very dangerous tool, and it has 3 cutting cups made out of tungsten carbide. They're very, very hard and they never need sharpening. It's a wonderful tool for doing getting quickly wood off. This is a planer. A planer has a revolving blade that goes round and round, and you can make a smooth surface with it. They're wonderful tools. Almost all my tools are made by Makita. The power tools or the chainsaws by Still. This is the other chainsaw.
It's a big one.
This is the big guy. It's a real workhorse, and it's very dangerous. And I learned power tool chainsaw safety from my uncle, who was a woodsman. As I move further back, you'll see on this side all the wood I have to work with so far. For instance, these pieces here are cherry burls from my son's property in New Jersey. These are excrescences from the tree, and they usually have a tortured wood grain inside, and they make wonderful pieces of wood to make a bowl with or various art objects. This one is the smallest I have right now. This is a very large one. It's the same kind of thing from the same tree. I also, from the same tree, brought down these rounds of cherry, which will be tabletops. So that's those. We'll go further down. We come into the workshop down here. This is the finishing department down here. Am I loud enough? You got me? Okay. And here's where I do steel wool fine finishing. Here's where I put on these plastic dams against the epoxy. This is the source of my epoxy. It's a hardener and resin. You mix them 1-to-1 and stir them up. Sometimes I'll put black paint powder in to color it, and sometimes it's clear, depending on how I want to do it. And it dries in warm weather within a few hours, rock hard. And then it's almost like glass. It's so sturdy. I use other finishes as well. This is a tung oil finish that gives you, that's what I have on the pieces right outside the workshop. Tung oil is a natural oil, and it fills the wood and creates that kind of orange yellow color, and is a good surface, even edible surfaces for bowls and cutting boards, of which I've made many. Further back, I have paint, I have smaller tools, solvents, and so on. On this side, here is a carving from the old days. This is Ferocious Fred. It was inspired by a number of trips that my wife and I took to New Zealand. This is sort of a takeoff on Maori carvings of gods outside their longhouses to protect them from evil spirits. This is my version. Some people would call it a tiki guy. And I think that's probably, there's a lot to take in here. My elder daughter made this for me. This is Dad's play area, according to her. She's kind of right. This is really what I do for fun in my retirement. I I think I promised you I would start the chainsaw. So let me walk out just to do that very briefly. And so briefly, I'm not even going to put my hard hat on because I've got to repair it now. But I will take my hearing aids out, which I always do when I use the chainsaw. So I won't be able to hear you for a minute. And I'm going to just do a little sawing. Actually, have some. Can I use the table?
Sure.
Nick's getting set up. All I'm going to do is just take a minute or so and show you what I do. This saw is gasoline powered. There are electric powered chainsaws, but they're cheaper and they don't do a very good job, and they break down very easily. So what I do is I put the choke on. What I've been doing is starting to take the bark off of the outside of the burl. It's a very quick way to do it. I also could use that chisel with a hammer much slower. So that's just a short example. I'm going to put my hearing aids back in, and then we'll walk down to my gallery. People wonder how I could work one of these metal boxes in the summertime because they get very, very hot. Well, the answer is I don't. But as you will see, you may have noticed there's a very large fan at the end of the workshop. Now I have that going, and it moves the air from the open door at the other end out this end. And in the winter, I will also work outside to keep the sawdust, the wind blowing it all away. Wonderful wind out here, and the noise is bearable with earphones on, and that creates quite a stir. We'll go down to the workshop. On the way, these are 3 large cherry logs for the next project. They are also from the same tree as the burl came from in New Jersey. My plan is to make 3 upright stelae that are another one of my homage to Brancusi. Constantine Brancusi was a wonderful sculptor, as you know, and I've admired his work in many museums, and especially at the Pompidou in Paris, where they have recreated his whole workshop and showroom with probably 50 pieces of his or more. So I'm going to make some uprights in simple shapes. He called them bird in flight sometimes. I'm not going to copy what he's done, but I am inspired by him to do something to give the beauty back to the cherry wood. Part of giving back to people who've been kind enough to gift me is to give something back. And these are two bowls, shallow bowls, from that log where I was showing you the three pieces before. This is the bottom, and they're very shallow, and they're marked by heavy spalting. This one is, and I'm going to give my donors of the wood a choice of a number of these that I've made from this log. These are all the spaltings. I always sign my pieces. Fitz in 2020. And this particular piece from the same log, it looks very different, has a different kind of wood figure. These elongated marks are made by a creature called the ambrosia beetle, who introduces ambrosia fungus into the wood, and it creates this very characteristic pattern. And wood cabinet makers love this wood because it makes it very interesting to have in your kitchen cabinets or something. But on the other side, there's also spaltings. So there's a wonderful history of the life with the various normal grains and death of this wood. Let's go into the gallery. The light's not great. You have to do the best you can. I'll stand back. You can come in and look around. It's sort of my showroom. What you're seeing first at the far end here that's a single piece of wood, those three rings. That was kind of an experiment I was trying to see if I could give you the illusion of three balancing rings. Underneath it are some bowls that I've carved, so lots of little tables of various sorts. This one here with the metal legs is a model for what I'm going to make with those cherry rounds I showed you earlier. This raw piece of wood on the floor is another cherry burl. It's huge. I can't lift it. I had to have help just getting it in here to store. This piece here is from a Japanese maple log that my son gave me, and I carved it deeply in a different kind of pattern. And this piece that my hand is on here is from that same Japanese maple tree that my son dug out of his yard. This was the root ball, and I have carved it into an abstract form here. As I have carved out other things as an abstract. This piece is made out of black walnut, and you can turn it around and see the different sides of it. I call it ghost wood. The other pieces here, this is an estancia I made out of local red cedar. More bowls, benches, more bowls, some abstracts. And to brag a little bit, a few ribbons from prizes that I have accumulated from Best in Show, Best Sculpture, and so on. Mostly at the RAL, but also at the Javits Center in New York. This is a project I've gotten into. I've made a number of these cork trivets, of which this is the smallest size. and I had a number of them I've shown and sold at the RAL. I'm a cork collector. And I also make cutting boards out of hardwood. This is the only one here right now. There's another one, which people either can use to put food on or to serve hors d'oeuvres like cheese. Behind you, behind the camera, there's a table that Nick at that I think may have some interest too. That table is a round of maple wood from Boston, a cousin's tree. She gave me that round, and another I'll show you. And in the center of it, it was rotten because it was old and sitting out in the snow for a couple of seasons. So I filled it with epoxy on the bottom because it went all the way through, and a dam, and then layered it with sand and seashells, and then put clear epoxy on the top. And this bowl there also has a big shell in it. Mostly the shells I use are called Powa shell from New Zealand. Maoris use abalone shell to decorate with, and this table also has Powa shell in it. Well, let's see. Any questions about the showroom here?
Someone's asking if you create side tables.
Many. Right now, this side table is also for my cousin in Boston. It's maple, and like this one, this is a smaller one. I buy the hairpin legs sometimes. Sometimes I make a wooden bottom to them, and I should have a show sometime of just tables. I've probably made 100 or more of them, and I've filled our house and my son's house and friends' houses with side tables.
Is it okay?
Okay, I think I'm getting a little bit hoarse and run out. So unless you have some more questions, I'm quite willing to call it a day.
Oh, we thank you very much, Fitz.
Oh,
Thank you.
It's
Thanks.
been a pleasure.
Thanks.